Once upon a time, in a small village nestled in the heart of Africa, there lived a woman named Sister Rose. She was a 26-year-old reverend sister, known throughout the village for her piety, compassion, and unwavering dedication to her faith. Clad in her white habit, she walked through the streets of the village every morning with a serene smile on her face, her hands clasped together as she greeted the villagers with warmth and kindness. Her presence was a blessing to many, and her words were often sought for guidance and comfort. The villagers adored Sister Rose, admiring her for the sacrifices she had made to serve the church and the people. Her reputation as a holy woman was unparalleled, and many believed she was destined for sainthood. She had grown up in the village and, from a young age, had always shown an inclination toward spiritual matters. Her decision to join the convent had been met with pride from her family, and they spoke of her with great reverence. But Sister Rose had a secret. Beneath the surface of her virtuous exterior lay a life unknown to anyone in the village. By night, she was not the holy woman everyone believed her to be. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Sister Rose would shed her habit, discarding her image of purity, and transform into someone else entirely. The quiet reverend sister became a different kind of woman, a seductress, a temptress, a lady of the night. Her double life was one of deep contrast, yet Sister Rose balanced it with a skill that no one could fathom. As the church bells rang for evening prayers, she would slip away into the shadows, changing into clothing that revealed a side of her no one ever saw. Her face, usually calm and composed, would take on a different light, sultry, alluring, and dangerous. She would visit neighboring towns, far away from her village, where no one recognized her as the revered sister of the church. In these places, Sister Rose was known by a different name, one that echoed in whispers among the night's denizens. Men sought her company, drawn to her mysterious beauty and the promise of the unknown. She was desired, admired, and envied, and in the darkness, she became someone else, free from the expectations and constraints of her holy life. No one knew how or why Sister Rose had chosen this path. Some would say she had been led astray by the temptations of the world, while others might suggest that it was a rebellion against the rigid constraints of her religious life. But the truth lay deep within her heart, hidden even from herself. For years, she had walked the fine line between the sacred and the profane, never letting one world collide with the other. Yet as time passed, the weight of her secret life began to press down on her. Each night as she returned to the convent, the guilt gnawed at her soul. The prayers she offered felt hollow, her vows empty. She had forsaken her own faith, but more than that, she had forsaken herself. Still, the lure of the night was too strong, and she found herself unable to break free from its hold. One evening, after a long night of clandestine encounters, Sister Rose stood before the altar in the village church, her heart heavy with shame. The candlelight flickered in the dim room as she knelt in prayer, asking for forgiveness, though she wasn't sure if she deserved it. She had sinned repeatedly, betraying not only the trust of the villagers, but also her own moral compass. Tears welled up in her eyes as she whispered her confessions to the empty room. But even in her most vulnerable moments, Sister Rose felt a strange comfort in her double life. The thrill of living on the edge, of keeping such a secret, was intoxicating. It gave her a sense of power and control that she had never felt within the confines of the convent. The contrast between her roles fascinated her, as though she were two entirely different people living in one body. It was a dangerous dance, one that could unravel at any moment. And then one day, the unthinkable happened. A stranger came to the village, a man unlike anyone the villagers had seen before. He was tall, with piercing eyes that seemed to see through everything and everyone. His presence caused a stir, and whispers followed him wherever he went. The villagers were curious but cautious, for there was something unsettling about him. The man made his way to the church, asking to meet Sister Rose. When he introduced himself, a chill ran down her spine. He had seen her in one of the distant towns, not as the reverend sister, but as the woman of the night. He had recognized her, despite the careful distance she had always maintained between her two worlds. Sister Rose's heart raced as she realized that her secret was no longer safe. The man did not confront her directly, nor did he threaten her. Instead, he spoke in riddles, hinting at knowledge he possessed without ever revealing the full extent of what he knew. His words were a constant reminder that her carefully constructed life could come crashing down at any moment. He would visit the church regularly, attending services and offering donations, all the while keeping his dark knowledge of Sister Rose's double life as a shadow over her. As the days turned into weeks, the pressure on Sister Rose grew unbearable. She was torn between her two lives, no longer able to separate them as easily as before. The man's presence in the village was a constant reminder of her deceit, and she could feel the weight of his gaze even when he wasn't around. Her prayers became more desperate, her actions more frantic, as she tried to hold on to the remnants of her faith. One fateful night, unable to bear the guilt any longer, Sister Rose made a decision. She would confront the man, hoping to find a way to silence him or, at the very least, make peace with the consequences of her actions. She met him in the village square under the cover of darkness, her heart pounding with fear and determination. The man stood there, waiting for her, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling calm. As they spoke, Sister Rose realized that he was not interested in exposing her secret. He had no intention of ruining her life or destroying her reputation. Instead, he sought something far more dangerous: her soul. The man was not an ordinary stranger, but a dark force, a manifestation of the very temptation that had led her astray. He had come to claim what she had unknowingly offered in exchange for her life of sin. Terrified, Sister Rose begged for mercy, but the man merely smiled, his eyes glowing with a sinister light. He told her that it was too late, that the moment she had chosen the life of the night, she had sealed her fate. Her double life had always been a path toward destruction, and now the time had come to pay the price. In a final act of desperation, Sister Rose fled to the church, seeking refuge in the one place she believed could save her. She knelt before the altar, her hands clasped together in prayer, tears streaming down her face as she begged for forgiveness. The church was silent, save for the sound of her sobs. But as she prayed, a cold wind swept through the room, and the candles flickered out. The man appeared behind her, his presence filling the church with an eerie darkness. Sister Rose could feel his approach, but she didn't turn around. She continued to pray, her voice shaking with fear and sorrow. The man stood over her, his shadow stretching across the floor like a shroud. And in that moment, Sister Rose realized that her time had come. With a final breath, she whispered a plea for redemption, but the church remained silent, and the man's shadow enveloped her completely. Sister Rose's life, once filled with both light and darkness, came to an end, her fate sealed by the choices she had made. In the village, the people mourned the loss of their beloved reverend sister. They spoke of her with reverence, never knowing the truth about her double life. To them, she remained a symbol of purity and grace, a holy woman who had served the church with devotion. But in the shadows, her story lived on, a cautionary tale of temptation, deceit, and the price of living two lives.